Well, I think this is your chance to, in a sense, get it off your chest, because we need to do that to progress forward. And I think this is a great opportunity. You know, just let it go. Yeah.
Sorry, we had another incident before this armed robbery. It was an armed robbery actually. What happened is one of my neighbours, 4 o'clock in the morning, he rang me and she said, you got 2 men with balaclavas, they're trying to get into your house. So obviously I immediately picked the golf club and ran downstairs. Well, when I went down, obviously they had an advantage because they were trying to come from the back door, which had multi-lock, and I could run from the front door with a latch on, try to chase them. I couldn't catch them, but I was very close. So luckily, my neighbour rang the police already, so by the time I come back, and the police saw me with a golf club, and he said, well, you're very lucky you didn't hit them when they were running away, because you will have been arrested and charged. So what I want to ask, what's the limit? I mean, what we're supposed to do? Obviously, if somebody breaks into my house, I've been on this for a cultural thing, I'm from Turkey, I was brought up with the guns and all that, because it's legal, you know, we can defend ourselves. The law is very simple. If somebody breaks into your house, they're facing you, you can shoot him, you won't even get to the police station because it's a class as a self-defense.
Okay.
But unfortunately, the law is very different here, so how much force we are entitled?
Okay.
Can I ask when it was a driver or an armed?
Sorry?
Was it a driver or an armed?
It was my golf club.
Oh, my wife, I don't play. Well, I will have used it better.
Okay. I've got personal opinions on that, and I've got a professional opinion on that, and I'll talk to you about the professional opinion. I think the government has left it deliberately ambiguous and vague. It says you can use reasonable force to protect yourself and your property, and it's really up to, if it goes to court, what reasonable force is. What I will say is the CPS are reluctant to charge somebody who has defended their property and themselves, and courts certainly seem reluctant to convict on that. However, if somebody's running away from your address, or they're no longer a threat to you and your property, and you assault them, you're on dodgy ground. If somebody's in your house and they are facing you, your property, and you are being threatened, but I can't give you black and white. All I can say is you're allowed to use reasonable force in the circumstances to protect you and your house. Now that might differ, because if somebody breaks into your house and they've got a gun, all bets are off. You can use legal force on them because they're you. Same with a knife. But if you've got a 12-year-old lad who's just coming through the window because he's then going to open the door and you leather him, okay, dodgy ground, because he's not really a threat to you. So that's all the advice I can give. And I know it's going to be incredibly hard, because when this is happening to you, your heart's pounding, you've gone into the fight or flight situation, and all you want to do is put somebody a bit of a thrash.
Somebody holding a knife to your neck.
If somebody's got a knife, you use whatever force you need to do to protect you and your family. And that's all the advice I can give you. And the government has left that deliberately vague for that, and I think that's for the protection of householders. I would love to see a change in the law, but I don't think it's going to happen. Does that answer the question?
Sorry, sir, you have to raise your hand for the question.
Thank you very much. We've spoken today, I've heard an awful lot about partnerships. Obviously you wanting the help from the local people to feed information into you to help us crack this, and obviously that makes perfect sense. And we're in an age of social media where things can be dispersed very, very quickly and very widely, and in the area that matters. But unless I'm not looking in the right place, there isn't an awful lot of information coming from the police into the community. And I'm talking now about, there must be probably some suspects in relation to these very similar burglaries, these aggravated burglaries that have happened. And that's why I'm here today, and a lot of people here, because of the horrendous small numbers, but very, very horrible robberies. Are there any faces that you're interested in? Are there any vehicles that you're interested in? Is there information that you could feed out to all these amateur sleuths out here? Because when these things happen, there must be something. Somebody's seeing a black Golf, or they've seen a white Toyota, or whatever it might be. But it never comes this way. It's always us giving it in, and then it seems to go into a black Golf.
No, that is an excellent point. We always have to balance things, because when it comes to prosecutions and identification of an offender, there are really strict guidelines. So if we just punt out a photograph saying, do you know what this is, that could then in the future mean that we can't prosecute them. But you're quite right, in relation
We
to...
don't on Crime Watch all the time.
They do at a certain level, and it's got to a certain level, and it's scrutinised at a high level by the detective on whether that's going to go out. And it's usually when you've done all your inquiries you can, and you've come to an end, and it's a last-ditch attempt to do that. If we start doing that out all the time, then we do stand a chance of losing that. However, you're quite right, we'll go and have a look at that. I think, Joe, if we can certainly around suspicious vehicles that we've got.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is, because we've got some really good WhatsApp groups on the Stamford Brook estate, and what I say to the residents is, you are our eyes and ears. These people aren't stupid. They don't have a black Golf on a Monday and still have it the following Monday. That's the problem. They'll have a Clio, or they'll change the cars as quickly as they change the hoodies and the trainers. That's the difference. And it's like footprints as well. You know, a footprint on a Monday is a completely different footprint than it is on the Friday because they've worn the shoe down differently. It's different. So that's another reason why the WhatsApp groups are good, because those people on Cumberland Road in Bowden, if they'd have been in a vehicle and they'd have phoned us and said they're in this black Golf and it's ABC 123, then we'd probably not seen that vehicle before. We didn't know that was being used by them, but they might use that the following day. So unfortunately, intelligence is quite old 24 hours later, and if we give you something and then somebody doesn't read it for 2 or 3 days, it's old information. So it's very difficult giving vehicles out like that.
I think we'll take that and have a review.
But are there ever any instances where information is fed by DMP into WhatsApp groups? Does it ever happen?
Yes, it does. From my experience on the Stamford Brook, because in one particular time when we had a spate over there was a couple of people working from home, and these burglaries were happening in the day then, and a couple of people working from home took a couple of pictures and they sent them through to us. We put them through our local systems and the PNC, Police National Computer, and they were previous keeper, dodgy details, and we followed it up and we actually put it back out to other WhatsApp groups on the Stamford Brook. Look out for this vehicle. And it was a team of burglars that were going round scouting. Yeah. So we did look at that, and then we got something back from them saying, I've seen that car, but a week later it was gone, the car, they had something different. But I do know what you're saying, and I take on board what you
said.
Happening,
if it could just happen in a small way, you've got an awful lot of eyes out there.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that need to come out of today is not just an interaction with in brackets them, it's actually for us to organise ourselves in a sense that help us, so to speak.
Yeah.
So if that's something that needs to develop from the group, this is something that we can nominate a small group that will be in close touch with the police, and they can feed. So I mean that's really all open, and all ideas are open for today. But that's absolutely.
But if you take a picture of a vehicle that you're not happy with, or you send us a registration number that you're not happy with, and we do some inquiries and we're not happy with it, then we would pump it out. But it would be on an ad hoc sort of, like I say, it's old information quickly. But if you give us that, then we will do the information and give it back to you and say, yes, that is of interest.
I think the beauty of it is, I come from a surveillance background, but I've done all my life in insurance fraud, that's where I live. But everybody now has got a covert surveillance device. It's called an iPhone. So you can take a picture of a face that you're not sure.
Yeah.
Those guys that were leaving the ladies' road. Yeah. I take pictures of cars in my road all the time.
Right.
Just because I don't recognise it. We've got a fantastic WhatsApp group with Avida, and I've got 20 new friends now because of the WhatsApp group as well.
Yeah, but we do connect together every single day.
Every day we're talking.
Yeah.
If there's a car there that we don't know,
everybody now has got
a
a covert device. You can very discreetly take a picture of somebody.
Yeah. And do it, go for it, do it, and then send it to our. You couldn't send it direct to our emails because if we're off duty, then obviously we won't be able to respond. But there is actually a Trafford South neighbourhood email thing. If you send it, we honestly, I love all that. I love to make inquiries because we don't know all these vehicles that they're using. Send it to us and we'll make those inquiries. We'll get back to you. Yeah, look out for that.
I think that's really what we need to know. We've got our local police officers, so I think what we need to know before we leave is the traffic going in one direction, how it works, and then traffic coming back.
Yeah.
So it's very important because you've got probably 4 or 5 minutes to get that, especially if something is happening quickly. So we need to know exactly how it goes in one direction, how it comes back, and how it's spread it. So but that's for the group to actually look into. Good news, guys. Man United 1-0.
Just on the thing of things coming back, I work quite closely with the intelligence at Stretford. I've got around 14 or 15 officers on the ground within this area alone. And I do quite often get emails from them. They're looking for certain vehicles or cars. All my vehicles have got fully equipped with cameras. So we quite often send stuff one way and it will come back the other way. So the police are working out in the community. And we've sent quite a bit through, and there's been a lot of intelligence-led stuff that has actually gone through to the police, that has actually gone somewhere and has resulted in arrests. So they do feed things back. I think you've got to be careful as well. If you're sending pictures of who you're looking for, you've got to be careful you don't go down this vigilante mode as well, because if you put a picture out and they think that looks like somebody and you stop them in the street. I've had residents that have rang me and gone, they live on a private road, North Road, there's 2 people looking down our drive, we've sent a vehicle over just to have a question. We stop, very polite, ask them what they're doing, and you get a mouthful of verbal abuse. What the effing hell's it got to do with you? I can walk or you're not there, please, we can do. And we get it. But we're being very polite, we're just asking the question. We explain to them there's been a suspect burglars in the area, we're here trying to help, we're just putting residents' minds at ease. Well, it's got nothing all to do with you. And these are residents that live within that area as well. So you have to be careful when the police are sending stuff back. You're not going to accuse the wrong person of something that's going to then result in a confrontation where you can get in trouble as well, because that's the last thing that you do want. So
I would like, if you don't mind, I would like to ask a question, because I think we have our councillors with us. I just want to know how the police force is funded in the locality. Is it mainly central, or does it have to do with the local council? Because if it has got something to do with local council, we can actually ask our councillors, where's the money going to?
Brexit.
Who funds the local police for? Who's funding this?
Can we just say that it's actually a precept that's paid as a part of a contribution from the residents to the police directly.
So this from our council tax?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Putting it simply, the Mayor of Greater Manchester raises a police precept which is added to the council tax, but the council has no control over it. And that money goes directly through the Mayor's system to fund the police. Plus he gets a grant from the government.
And what he does with the money, does he put it back to each local council to spend it?
No.
Or is it spent from the
It
mayor's
is spent
office?
from the Police and Crime Commissioner, i.e. the Mayor of Greater Manchester.
And
The
what,
local councils have nothing to do with it.
what pressure do our local councils have against the mayor? Because we're going to be questioning them. So what is the feedback now? What's the turnaround?
So, firstly to say, this year it has massively increased because that has been included in the strategy to address crime. And secondly, what influence do we have in Trafford when we have our council meetings once a month? If there are particular issues that have been raised to us, or concerns or views, we will then question and put those points to the executive. And the executive, as you know, at the moment is a joint executive between Labour and the Liberal Democrats. Hopefully that will change in May, but that's how we would try to represent you. As a way of making sure that we get the share that we need to address them.
I think one of the points is as well, because as it's been alluded to, that we are considered to be the safest area in Greater Manchester, that the funding tends to be less. It's a bit like the schools, the better the schools are, the less funding you get because you think they assume that they can look after themselves. So it's a bit of a catch-22 situation there. So it's important, that people, it's good to see so many people here today, and I'm grateful obviously for the organisation, the Study Centre and others who've managed to get the local MP and the police here as well to will answer these questions. So clearly, that's coming back. That there's a lot of crime in the area, burglaries. And I was at the constituency surgery this morning where we had members, of the ward who came down who expressed their concerns of what's being done. And so, we have to highlight. It's been said, the neighbourhood watch, and that has to adapt using social media, which is obviously of benefit. Clearly, what's happened is other ways of being able to communicate, because people do tend to communicate less than with each other because of people's busy lives and being professionals. So it's all the more reason, that using social media to try and help each other and also get to know each other as well, which it's been said that it's been a bit of a benefit in terms of other ways of that social interaction, which is diminishing in that respect.
Another question I want to ask.
Just to develop one more thing. The leaders of each of the 10 leaders of each Greater Manchester Council actually form a separate committee which can interrogate the Police and Crime Commissioner. Now, that is actually a member of the Mayor's staff. And those are the people, so it is your council leader, if you are unhappy with the level of police, it is to the leader of the council you should go and write. But they are the ones, and only those 10 sit on what is effectively a Police and Crime Commission board.
Because I presume when they sit at that table, there's going to be conflicting sort of ideas as to where the money should go and where the priorities are. Yeah.
They
But from
don't
a political
control
point of
money
view,
so
it's
much.
important that
Yeah.
the leader of the council is notified and knows and is aware of what the situation in terms of being able to fight for the Buddha's corner.
So
Clearly,
it's something
stats
for
will
us
be
that
coming up and
They
senior
don't
officers.
control the money, Nessa.
yeah.
The Mayor controls the money.
we can, but it's how you sort of address
Yeah,
the
all
problem
you
at
can
the
do.
table. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
try and change the priorities
Yeah.
within.
But I think that also goes back to one of the points that we need to take on board, because we need to really, that's how we beef up our case, at that table.
So there's the mayor.
No, there will be a person from the council who will be sitting at the state council.
Who is that, and how do we write to them?
The leaders and Councillor Weston, Andrew Weston. And it comes under the GMC, which is Greater Manchester Combined Authority.
So for our locality, we write to Andrew Weston and express our concerns and ask him what is he doing on behalf of us as a local
When he
council.
sits at that table, he needs to be. Yeah. We've actually, sorry, my apology. We've actually looked at how the police initiate the response towards a burglary, but I think a lot of our dissatisfaction is what happens next. So can we ask John to address that? What happens in a classic case of burglary? What priority does it take? At what stage is it, how long is it investigated for? At what stage it is dropped? What happens later? How is it classified? How is it sort of put on sort of
Okay. So a reported burglary comes in. I'm sad to say that probably 12 months ago, not every burglary that was reported got a physical police officer to the scene. Sometimes the report was just taken over the phone and no officer attended, which is quite shocking. It shouldn't have happened. And I looked at that and we tightened that up so that every burglary that is reported will get a police officer to the scene to have a look at it. So the call comes in. If it's in progress, so somebody's there, then it's a grade 1. And we've got 10 minutes to get there, and that's what we call thieves off. And we hit 100% of those grade 1s. If it's a historic one, that becomes a grade 2, and we should get there within the hour. But as I mentioned, if we have a particularly busy day, we have a finite resource of officers covering the whole of Trafford, and occasionally we don't get to those within the hour, and it can stretch to a day or two, depending if we're having a particularly busy period of time. But an officer will get there. In the meantime, the local police community officer will review those crimes, and they will go out and they will do house to house. So they'll knock on a number of houses around that, giving crime prevention advice, looking for CCTV, looking for evidence. So there is an initial evidence trawl. At the time that the burglary is reported, it is assessed to see whether it's worth sending out our crime scene investigation. So if there's blood, there's a footprint, anything like that, the crime scene investigator will assess that and will turn out and recover any particular forensic evidence. And it may appear disjointed because you may get the crime scene investigating officer telling you to do an edit, you may end up with the local PCSOs doing the cocooning, and then sometime later on you may get the police officer turning up to the individual address. If, once the initial investigation is done, if there is CCTV, which has got a clear face, we will put on our digital evidence database. We'll put that on there, and all police officers look at that to see if they can identify somebody from the face. If it's not good enough quality to do that, we then put it on our electronic briefing and it goes out to everybody and they can do that. If there is forensic evidence, then that is followed up, and it will be for all burglaries, so there's blood, we will send that off and we'll try and get a DNA profile for that. Same for saliva, so if somebody's been drinking up the bottle and leave that, that will get followed to a degree. The detective will review it to see if there are any other lines of inquiry. However, sometimes you will get a burglary where there's no CCTV, there are no other witnesses, there are no forensic opportunities, the house-to-house has been done, we have done all of that investigation very quickly, but there's nowhere else to go. You know, there are no other lines of inquiry. That crime will then be closed at that stage. However, it builds up part of a larger picture. If the method of operation of how they've gone about that burglary gets into a larger pattern that we are experiencing, then that again is looked at along with the other crimes to see whether we need to put resources in a specific area, whether it fits the MO of a particular offender that we can then be looking at. Does that all make sense? But each burglary crime is reviewed to make sure that all lines of inquiry have been followed and there are no more. But if there are no more lines of inquiry, there is nothing else we can do. The volume of work coming into GP does not allow us to keep going back over offences that we have reviewed thoroughly and investigated thoroughly and then other lines of inquiry. So people will sometimes get that letter that says your crime's been closed. If you think something hasn't been investigated properly, challenge it. If you think they haven't done this, let us know and we'll have a look at it and review it again. But for burglars, we love catching burglars, so we'll never do it. We'll never close a burglary without all lines of inquiry being closed up.
Hi, we were burgled last year in February. It was on a Sunday afternoon, 3 o'clock. I just went to Asda. We're on Main Park Road. Just went for bread, milk and eggs, you know. I took the children with me. They didn't want to go. They would have been home otherwise. And when we got back, it was less than 30 minutes. And the inner Yale lock was jammed. And my daughter looked through the glass panel and she said, all our things are on the floor. And we didn't have any cameras and there was no CCTV footage, like you said. And the only forensics they found was the boot print, on the side door which they had kicked in.
Yeah.
And in our property, it's a detached property. The other houses are a bit further away. They wouldn't have heard it. It would have taken a couple of kicks in. The police officer who responded told us. And like Rahil said, that we should put things in suitcases. Everything was on the floor. Suitcases emptied, everything. And we were okay. We realized that nothing could have been done, and they did follow up. And the forensics guy came in the evening. They responded very quickly. Everything that could be done was done. Just a few months later, our neighbor on our right side, he was robbed. Same thing happened, but we had cameras this time, and they saw them coming in. There was a van that dropped them off, 3 lads, like early 20s, I think. 1 black and 2 Caucasian, I think. And they could see them going to the back and breaking the door down. And but they told us that the footage wasn't clear enough, and they couldn't do much with it.
CCTV is good, but
Yeah.
if it's just figures,
Yeah.
that doesn't really help us. If it's distinctive clothing we can identify,
Yeah.
that's good, or registration
Yeah.
numbers, that's good. But the only thing I would say is,
Yeah.
we've had the examples in the stories, and this is where it's a partnership.
Yeah.
You've got to make your hairdressers
Yeah.
burglar hostile, with
Yeah.
alarms, with internal doors. And I know it's a
Yeah.
faff every time you go out, you've got to set an alarm, you've
Yeah.
got to lock those doors, but that's what it's about. It's making your address harder to target than anybody else.
Yeah. After that, we started paying more attention to the statistics on the police website and everything. And I think because you put them like weekly or monthly, it gives a false picture. Because if you look at the yearly, the number is huge, like 80 or something, in 1 year in a small area.
It's a bunch to be taken. That's what I mean. We're not going to cover it. We're just about
one very quick point you said about putting things in suitcases. The easiest thing to do with any of your valuables, I don't have an awful lot of valuables, but I've got a passport, I've got birth certificates, I've got things like that. Aldi, cheap places, a safe, bolted to the floor. Don't just buy a safe because they'll take the safe. Bolt it to the floor and put it in a place that it wouldn't always look. I've got one in my house, it's got my passport, it's got my birth certificate.
Yeah, they looked under the bathtub, they looked everywhere. They didn't
But if
leave
you've got a safe that's bolted to the floor,
yeah,
and you've got an alarm going off,
yeah,
they're not going to have the time
we
to
didn't bolt it to the floor. There was one, but they took
It's a
it.
big discussion about how to keep safe. But I'm mindful of that you've been a wonderful audience. It's been an hour and 45 minutes. The tea is still brewing up at the back. And we want there's 3 people with their hands up. Please be quick. Oh, sorry, 4 people with their hands up. We start at the back and we move forward.
Quick question. We heard a lot about how to make your home safe. But we as tenants, we have no rights over it. So when we call our landlords, not allow a lot of things to do. Ideally, they should be giving us a safer home. So when we call the council, there's unfortunately only gas and heating is covered. So your safety for having an alarm or something like that is not covered under your Private Tenancy Act. So what do we as tenants do? We can't be spending hundreds of thousands of pounds in a house which we rent. What safety can we
need to record these points because they will form the document and we'll discuss them. Because this is not today is not the only day. Today is a start, and we need to record all these things. Gentlemen, there, you're right.
If I could just ask one question about something that's happening on the streets at the moment. We're getting knocks on the doors from guys claiming to be reformed young offenders selling dusters and brushes.
As well, yeah.
Can you just clarify? I understand that there is no such scheme as a young offender scheme.
With a badge.
And is it possible that these guys are scoping out properties for gangs?
You know, I'd be really surprised if people were, because it's so high profile. To be honest, I don't know whether there are such schemes. I certainly know where I live, they've knocked on the door. I photograph on my phone and politely decline. That's what I do with that, so they know I've got a photograph of it, which I would suggest you do yourself. So are you aware of any schemes? I'm not particularly, but...
Yeah, there's been, I know what you're talking about, and we have had a couple of reports. Other areas, I think that was somewhere, I can't remember where it wasn't anywhere near Manchester, but sometimes they bust them in from other completely different areas, Hereford or whatever, areas that are nowhere near here. But they should have a card with it on. I don't like it, I've had it as well. It doesn't make me feel comfortable either.
There is something on, if you go on the internet and Google it, that the police somewhere have said there is no such scheme.
When they knocked on my door, I told them I'm a Jehovah's Witness. They never came back.
Okay, so I've taken on board what your point about statistics. All I can tell you is we have a WhatsApp group in our street. This year alone, 3, and that's too high. So that side, what I really want, I'm not saying you have to do it today, is there a facility whereby we can meet with a member, it doesn't have to be an actual police officer or some admin person from the police, whereby we can actually risk assess our street. It would be just one person, it would be the whole street. We'd risk that they could, because there's so much confusion. One thing we're told, they've got security, but the burglars can just switch off, they can cut your phone line, all the security that we think is good, ring, everything else, all goes to pieces. We just confused, so I don't actually know what I should do, what I shouldn't do. I have got a police link alarm. After that, I'm confused. The thing about the security cameras, I had a security camera back in London where they actually saw the people taking my bike, and the first thing they said to police was, we can't identify them. They said, we know who they are. We know these lads. But we can't, it's not good enough. So we're totally confused. So I don't want to spend money that's actually turned out to be a complete waste of time.
That's the point.
Would it be possible?
We do have crime prevention advisors. We don't have as many as we did 5 years ago. But again, has everyone provided their contact details who's here? Yeah. Okay. So I will find out who those crime prevention advisors are. It may be there aren't sufficient of them to come out personally, but I certainly know that all of our PCSOs are training. And if people want that additional advice on crime prevention, we will make sure that happens.
To be honest, I think we even pay for it.
Yeah, no problem. I have to be firm. Last question.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question. There's been a feeling that in Bowden and Hale there's an increase in the burglaries, and I'd like to ask whether you think it's the same people repeatedly doing it, or whether you think there's a lot more people doing it now.
Okay, difficult. Traditionally, Hale and Bowden does have a problem, and it goes in peaks and troughs. Not just Hale and Bowden, we also get them simply in Sale. And we see along that border, we see peaks and troughs increase on those. What we tend to find is when it drops off in Hale and Bowden, it picks up in Sale and it picks up in Simpler. We also have burglars quite often in Urmston. We think they're separate people. I suspect that there are separate teams doing certain things. You will have teams who specialise in taking motor vehicles. You will have teams that will specialise in the Asian jewellery or watches, and you will just have teams who just go to still up and get their hands on. And there will be different groups, and there will be repeat offenders. Intel is that some of our offenders come over from the Wythenshawe area. I'm not putting a slur on Wythenshawe, that's what our intel says. And they are a very loose conglomerate. And you may have a team of burglars one night that have been put together off 3 people who didn't do it the previous night before. So there will be repeat offenders. Now, when we have good intelligence on who they are, we do disrupt. We go around to their addresses and we challenge the information around the addresses. Sometimes we take photographs to try and disrupt them and what vehicles they've got. So yes, I do think there probably are repeat offenders, and where we identify who they are, we do our best to disrupt them. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Okay, I think we have to wrap up. But as I say, please, be confident in the fact that this is just the first of many meetings. I think what Raheel has done has been amazing. I mean, if